Hey, sexy people. Let's talk about one of the most overused, underdefined phrases in modern relationships, emotional cheating. And I'm going to say something that might piss you off at first, but if you stay with me, it'll actually set you free. Emotional cheating is a made-up phrase. Yeah, it is. Not because the pain isn't real. The pain can be very real, but because the label is usually doing the job that clarity, agreements, emotional skills, and honest repair are supposed to do. Most people don't need a new category of cheating. They need a grown-up definition of what's happening and what to do about it. But before we dive in, hi, I'm Taylor K. Sparks, your ethical non-monogamy coach and sex goddess, and I help people build relationships rooted in consent, integrity, and emotional mastery. And today I want to break down why emotional cheating is such a sloppy label and how it turns into control and thought policing, and what you should be saying instead if you want real solutions and not just a villain story. So first, let me tell you why the phrase exists and why it's so popular. Emotional cheating became popular because it immediately validates a feeling. It gives you a storyline. It gives you a culprit. It makes you feel like you have the moral high ground, but the problem is a label can become a shortcut that replaces skill building. It becomes you emotionally cheated instead of I feel unsafe, I feel replaced, I'm insecure, I'm scared I'm losing you, or I'm not sure about what our agreements are, or I don't know how to handle jealousy. I don't even know how to ask for reassurance without controlling you. Emotions are real, but emotions are not evidence of wrongdoing. Emotions are information. And when you treat information like a conviction, you skip the actual work. So the real question is not, is it cheating? And if you find yourself wanting to say emotional cheating, I want you to pause and ask a better question. What is actually happening here? Because most of the time what's happening falls into one of these categories: an agreement breach, dishonesty, intimacy displacement, or emotional control. So let's start with the simplest one. Did someone violate an agreement? Because if you never defined agreements, you can't call everything a betrayal. A lot of couples are out here just freestyling their relationship expectations and then acting shocked when someone doesn't follow a rule that was, never clearly stated. And I mean clearly stated, as opposed to doing what your parents did or what you read in some urban romance novel, or, what you saw on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. So instead of you emotionally cheated, the question is, did you violate something we agreed to? Examples could be, we agreed we would disclose romantic intentions before before it escalates, and you didn't. We agreed certain types of flirting or ongoing private intimacy were not okay, and you continued. We agreed not to build romantic energy with someone while calling it just friends to avoid accountability and the conversation about it. That's not emotional cheating. That's an agreement breach. And there is a difference. Clean language, clear problem, clear solution. Renegotiate, repair, or leave. Now let's talk about the part that gets people all confused and dramatic. Secrecy, honesty, and omission. And I want to be very clear because I do not teach confusion. Omission is not lying. Lying is saying something that isn't true with the intent to mislead. Omission is not volunteering every detail, and for some people it feels the same in the gut. Adults are allowed privacy. Adults are allowed to choose timing. Adults are allowed discernment. You do not automatically have a right to every thought, every message, and every moment that your partner experiences. That's not intimacy. That's surveillance. Now, can omission still create harm? Yes, of course, right? It can when it becomes strategic secrecy. Strategic secrecy is when someone intentionally withholds information because they know it would change their partner's consent, or they know it violates an agreement, or they're trying to maintain access to something while dodging accountability. So that's different than simply not reporting every detail of your day or every conversation you had. So the real question isn't, did you omit something? The real question is, did you mislead me, or did you simply not report every detail? Those are not the same. Now, Sometimes nobody lied and an agreement wasn't technically broken, but something still feels kind of off. What's off is displacement. Intimacy displacement is when one partner starts pouring emotional energy into someone else while the primary relationship is starving. This is where the person on the receiving end says, I feel like you're not kind of here with me anymore. And instead of naming it as disconnection and neglect, they slap the label emotional cheating on it. Intimacy displacement looks like you stop doing repair with your partner, but you're emotionally available to someone else. You withdraw at home, but you're alive and present with them. You run to that person for comfort instead of having hard conversations within your relationship. You start comparing, triangulating, or using them as an escape hatch. That's not cheating, it's avoidance, neglect, and emotional mismanagement. The fix isn't punishment, the fix is repair, boundaries, and building relational skills. Now let's talk about the version of emotional cheating that I really, really, really want people to confront. Sometimes emotional cheating is just a socially acceptable way to police your partner's friendships, choices, and even their thoughts. You know what I mean, right? You shouldn't talk to anyone about us. You shouldn't be having private conversations. You should tell me everything you think and you feel as soon as it happens. No, that is not honesty. That is not intimacy. That is control dressed up as moral superiority. Your partner is a whole human being, not your emotional support animal, right? So come closer because this is the part that people skip. Yeah, you. Yes, you. You are not automatically the best person for your partner to process every thought with. Sometimes a relative has better insight. Sometimes a friend has more life experience. Sometimes a coworker understands the work politics that you don't. Sometimes a therapist is literally the healthiest and most appropriate person. Healthy adults have support systems. Healthy relationships do not require or thrive in isolation. So let's be authentic about what tell me everything usually means. It usually means tell me everything so I can manage my anxiety. But your anxiety is your responsibility. Yes, your relationship deserves transparency where it matters, especially around agreements, consent, and choices that impact you. But transparency does not mean constant reporting. Intimacy does not mean no private inner life. If you demand first access to every thought, you're not asking for closeness, you're asking for custody. And that expectation will destroy your relationship because it makes your partner responsible for all of your emotional needs. That's exhausting and it's unsustainable. And quite frankly, it's unfair, especially because your partner may not even have the tools to regulate your nervous system the way that you're demanding. You can't demand mastery from someone who hasn't built it yet. And you can't demand that they stop having other meaningful connections because you don't know how to handle your feelings. So what do we do instead? We get mature and specific. We define privacy versus secrecy. Privacy is I'm allowed to process my emotions with appropriate people. I'm allowed a private inner life. I'm allowed discretion. Secrecy is I'm hiding something because it violates agreements, changes consent, and I'm maintaining access by dodging accountability. We define support versus replacement. Support is I can lean on my friends and family, professionals, and community for a perspective. Replacement is I'm using someone else to avoid repair with my partner, or I'm pouring emotional intimacy into someone else while neglecting my relationship. Then we define actual agreements. What do we consider shared information? What do we consider private? What topics need to come to the relationship or repair because they affect stability and consent? What behaviors cross the line for us? Because emotional cheating is too vague to solve everything. It just escalates the fear. And here are some grown-up translations that actually lead to solutions. Instead of you emotionally cheated, say, we didn't define our agreements and I feel unsafe. This feels like secrecy and I need clarity about what's private versus what's hidden. I feel replaced and I need reassurance and repair. I'm noticing intimacy displacement and we need to kind of rebalance our own connection. I need to understand what our boundaries are around emotional intimacy with others. So notice how these statements don't accuse, they clarify, they invite repair, they move the relationship forward. What I know for sure is we need to stop chasing labels, name the behavior, define the agreement, do the repair, and stop confusing intimacy with surveillance. So if you need a play-by-play of your partner's brain to feel safe, the problem isn't their friend or their coworker or their sister or their therapist. The problem is your nervous system, your attachment wounds, and your lack of emotional self-management tools. And that's not shame. That's just the work that needs to be done, because a healthy relationship isn't two people trapped in a room emotionally feeding off of each other. A healthy relationship is two regulated adults who can process with appropriate support, come back with clarity, and repair with honesty. Now, if this hits a nerve, good. That means there's something worth cleaning up together or within yourself. And if you want support doing that work, you already know where to find me so we can have a private conversation. And I'm not here to make the choices for you. I'm here to support you in understanding them and in creating relationships that are as expansive and authentic as you are. Until next time, your love, your rules, and your freedom. Bye-bye.